Hello, my divine being, and welcome to this week's episode of Confessions of a New Age Goddess. As always, I'm the New Age Goddess herself, Melissa. Joining me today is Katara Sky. Kat is a shamanic healer, medicine woman, spiritual teacher, intuitive guide, and facilitates journeys. She's in the business of transformation, helping people find their truth. So, Kat, welcome to the pod.
Thanks, Melissa, for having me.
Of course. And then, Kat, where in the world are you joining us from?
I am joining you from Sydney, Australia. It's my current home, and I've been here for probably about the last year and a half.
Very cool. And I know, in just kind of speaking with you and reading your bio, that you've lived a lot of different places, kind of pretty much all over the world. And how did you end up in Sydney at the present moment?
That's an amazing question, and from the logical mind, it doesn't sound like there's any sense to it whatsoever. But I'm originally from Canada, and I actually traveled and decided to work abroad in the Middle East probably about more than a decade ago. So that was like kind of the beginning of this big adventure that I've been on. And then I guess it was like near 2019 when I started feeling a bit of, wanting more out of my job, wanting more out of my life, and had already dabbled in quite a few retreats and self development work. And next thing you know, I was signed up to do this big course here in Australia. But actually, it was that resignation from my corporate job. So I left in 2019 and began quite a bit of traveling and studying. And I guess just before this world crisis and situation that's happening, I was really feeling like, oh my God, I need to get into Australia like right now. Like I was already planning to come, but it was like, need to go right now. And it was that connection to spirit, it was that intuition that was actually guiding me. And I ended up coming here like literally 2 days before the borders closed.
Wow.
So I did that. I've been here ever since, and I definitely know why I'm here, but I just haven't left. So Sydney's been my home since then.
Very interesting. Yeah, because especially now more than ever, so many people are relocating. And,
Mm,
a lot of people that even I've spoke to personally, they said, there is this calling.
that's
There is
right.
this calling, and it's just, I know I need to be there, whether it be an ancestral reason or just where they're at in their life. And it's something that I haven't seen in the past, at least not to this extent. So it's quite interesting too.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then if you could kind of introduce yourself, from your point of view, give us a little bit more color about what you do and what you're about.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as I said, I'm from Canada originally. So, kind of my studies and my background has always been in business. I was a really good Asian kid, smart, and I was studying in science. Found that that wasn't my passion, then changed to business. Still kind of wasn't good enough, but I did it anyway. And basically spent a decade in doing corporate finance, strategy, worked for an airline, which was my dream job in the sense of I really got to see the world and I loved it. And it really showed me a lot. And I really felt at the end of it, it was really feeling that I'm not sure if I want to do this. You know, when you can do something, but you're
Mhm.
not sure if that's still what you want to do. You can be really good at it, but not feel like, oh, this is not really, filling my cup here. So after a decade of that, I think that's when that calling, that call, and I talk about this, in the hero's journey and the call to life and what we're here to do. But it was that call to like do something else. And it was all that traveling, but inner traveling, what I call inner traveling. And I guess I took a few courses, I read a lot, I was always, interested in learning more and began that journey to discovering myself. So I did a bit of yoga, I did a bit of qigong, I studied hypnotherapy, I studied energy work, and it was just like this cycle and this path accelerated, supersonic speed acceleration of all this learning really to heal myself, which obviously in hindsight I can see that. And then that discovery of, oh my God, like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So basically, I'm corporate businesswoman turned shamanic healer,
Yes.
which definitely is like, a 360 here. And now I help people to listen to that call. I really think that, to sum down the healing that I do is really helping people to listen to that inner voice, to discern that inner voice, which is not the mind, but really that connection to the divine, and really listening to it and having that courage to work through the things in order for them to follow that so that they can express themselves in the most authentic way. So I know shamanism comes with its whole own slew of, misconceptions and ideas, but really when I bring it down, I want to help people to connect to their nature, their true nature, and all of nature around so that they can really find themselves, because it's there. It's like inside, it's not out there. We're all looking outside, but yeah, that's how I kind of sum up the work, helping people to find themselves and express that.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me because it's really to your point about the journey within and,
Mm,
that uncovering of layers of the outside forces, but still connecting with nature in that sense. And you even said,
absolutely.
yeah, and you even said yourself, you looked at all of these different modalities, yoga, qigong, and you use shamanism as a healing modality.
Mm.
So how can you kind of walk us through that, how it does help with healing and how it's different from other healing modalities
Mm.
that are out there?
Yeah. It's a question that I asked myself, like, because I actually trained in different modalities. I've studied hypnotherapy, working with the mind. I studied Reiki, which was a really beautiful and easy, or not easy, but system to
Mhm.
start understanding energy work. And so once I completed some of my shamanic training, and I've been doing that for, let's say, a year, 2 years, different schools as well, and really being exposed to it, it was like coming back to, well, why do they call themselves psychic healers? Why do they say energy healer? Why do they say shamanic healer? Like, what really defines or what makes them shamanic?
Mhm.
And I've kind of come to the conclusion that shamanism in general, and there are different, ways to practice shamanism. You can have plant medicine, you can have, lineages with tribes, you can be a shamanic practitioner, but I really find that shamanism really works with nature,
Mhm.
really works with not just Gaia and Mother Earth around us, but elemental, like we're
Yeah.
working with the elements of fire, earth, air, water, working with the forces all around, working with the things that are here on earth, our earth body, you know? Because
Yes.
I find that sometimes when, we work with different kinds of energy healing, different kinds of healing in general, there's a lot about ascension, going upwards. And I think, yes, absolutely, we need to connect to that. But it's how do we bring that into the body? How do we bring it into our reality? Because we are living in bodies, we are living on earth. It's not just about being in the 5D or whatever dimension, and we definitely go there with
Yes.
shamanic work, but it's like, how do you bring it into what makes sense in this body now? And I think sometimes, like, I've had, some amazing healings where I'm thinking, like, what do they mean by that? Like, what does it mean with all this energy speak and light language and blah, blah, blah? And it's really powerful work. But to make it approachable for people, I think that shamanism can appeal to us in a very primal, in a
Mhm.
very native way that all of us have that, because actually it's not new age, it's very old age, it's very ancient. All civilizations used to live in this shamanic way. So shamanic healing for me is that connection to the divine in a way that brings things, really ultimately needs to bring it back into the body, into this reality, this day to day, and works with the elements and the nature all around us, because we are discovering our nature and how it relates to everything around us. It's like in the harmony of the whole system. Does that make sense?
Definitely, definitely. And I also like what you said that it's so primal
Mm,
because there's other shamans that I've spoke to as well. They said, well, actually, when I went back to my ancestral lineage, I realized that I was maybe part of a particular tribe, what have you, that they did already have that in their bloodline, or that
mm,
even maybe perhaps they were one in a past life when they've done a past life reading. And just even when they do certain type of practices, it's so familiar. It's so
yes,
familiar. Like you
yes.
pick it up like second nature. And it's something if they weren't exposed to it, they wouldn't have that memory come through. So
Mm.
it's kind of working with what you already have in previous.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a really, good way of explaining it, Melissa. Like I know in this day we think, oh, what we know is like what we've learned in school, like something we have experienced. But if we can just expand our awareness to the possibility that our memory, our remembering is beyond this lifetime. And so these tools that you use, the knowledge that you have, like what you're sharing, whether as a, psychic healer, energy healer, any healer, it's like it comes from a place that's beyond this lifetime. And the lineages, that I connect to or that I remember, it's like, oh my God, like in my conscious mind, no idea.
Yeah.
The sounds that come through, the things that I'm saying, it's like I don't have that experience of that thing that I'm healing, but I do in another life.
Yes.
And so this thing of, when you heal things or people that you've already worked through yourself, as a shamanic healer, and probably, you might know because you're a healer yourself, it's like there's some part of you that already has that, if you believe that we're connected all together, we're one and everything and we've experienced it. When I'm working with a trauma or with someone that, I haven't actually dealt with that thing, well, I have an experience of it
Yeah.
somewhere else. And those lineages come through, when you're doing the work. So absolutely, like I think many people have, ideas about shamanism and being born into a tribe or, like maybe misappropriation of cultures, but it's like, you don't know who I was, back then or 10,000 years or 6 lifetimes ago. So I think it's like really understanding what that means to bring things through from another time, what lineage and, the shamanic practice of that connection. That's the most important thing, and that we all have it. We all have it.
Yes, definitely. And it's just really tapping into it,
Mm.
getting to that point of kind of realizing it. And also kind of what you were saying, when you're naturally good at something, you're just naturally really good at, I don't know, being an engineer, for example. If you
Mm.
were one in a past life, maybe in a different way than you are currently, probably not on a computer, but
Yeah.
you still carry those traits with you. So I think that's always interesting. And kind of what you said too, even if it's not, let's say, a life experience I had in this present life, and I'm helping somebody through it, I might have done it in a past life. Even myself, when I go into the Akashic records for a person and we're going through a past life, that can be
Hmm.
incredibly healing for this present one. Like, for example, let's say I'm working with a new mom and she's freaking
Yeah.
out. She's never been a mom before. She doesn't know if she can do it. But then in a past life, she had 5 kids and
Yeah.
they were living somewhere with no electricity and she did great. So it's just, you've already done it.
Yeah.
Yes, not in this life, but maybe in a past one. And you already have the skills and you don't even know it.
Yeah.
Definitely. Okay, great. And then kind of branching off of that, what does it really mean to truly embrace the shamanic path? How could you describe that?
Hmm. Embracing the shamanic path to me is not just when we're in a healing space. Like, even though I call myself a shamanic healer, being shamanic means this living between the worlds all the time.
Mm,
Like, as a shamanic practitioner, we say that we're the bridge between the spiritual and the physical world. That we're able to journey into the unknown or the non ordinary realms to bring that wisdom back. Amazing. But can you really separate who you are when you're a practitioner and how you are when you live? Like, I think when I go about my day to day, it's like, no, I'm not always off with the fairies, and head in the clouds, but I am always between the worlds. That ability to tune in, the ability to be connected to something and read energy and receive information coming through. It's kind of happening all the time. You and I are here together, and maybe I'm already getting instances of, okay, I'm sure we know each other in a past life. That's information coming in. That's not like me with my mind of, I just met Melissa on Facebook a couple of weeks ago, whatever it is.
mhm.
It's like being in the body and in the world and, doing this thing. We're doing a podcast right now, but it's also being connected to other realms all the time and
Yeah.
letting that information kind of be present all the time. And I think that's a very important distinction of not being off with the fairies or whatever the expression is, but being really grounded in where you are, but connected to everything. So living a shamanic life means that we're walking it all the time. We're connected all the time. Like you can't just be, oh, I'm highly intuitive when you're in a session. Like what happens if you're, it's like that book smart, street smart thing.
Mhm.
You can be connected when you're in session, but what about in your day to day? And to me, there's no difference. We might create a very sacred space and a ceremonial space when we're working, but I think in the day to day, like we're always in it. I'm always in it. I'm always connected and what are the guides saying? How does it feel? What's the energy outside feeling? So to me, embracing a shamanic life is really knowing that once you're on this path, like there's no getting out per se. Like it's like turning on. There's when you turn something on, like you can't just turn it off. When you see something, you can't unsee it. So for me, it's like everything's already on, and it's just being able to maneuver to say, when do I need to rely on something that's information coming from that side? How do I integrate it? And really being master of both worlds. Like that's the shamanic path, like really being in both worlds all the time and living in alignment with that.
Yeah. And I love that analogy of the light switch, because I was literally thinking that. I'm like, it's not something to just turn on and off as you please,
No.
But yeah, especially when something is embodied so deeply. And yeah, even someone I follow, Abraham Hicks, she says it all the time, you can't go back. Once you find certain information, you can't go back. So be ready to move forward.
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
here.
Totally.
Yeah, but it definitely just helps just with daily life, just day-to-day tasks that maybe previously didn't hold so much value, but now you really do see the intrinsic value behind it, and it has a whole different meaning to it.
Yeah, and allowing that to like guide us. Like I'm sure that you rely on your practices as well to guide you in life, and that's it. Embracing any path. It's not it's not out of the ordinary. It's just like, how do you use the things you learned and then apply it? How do you use it to trust yourself more? How do you use it to make decisions more? How do you use it to be more, empathetic, or, really like using the tools? You're in healing and journeying and transforming all the time. And that's what I like to tell people. It's, just like we say, yoga on the mat, yoga off the mat. It's healing when you're there, healing when you're not. It's like always this process of just being on the journey.
Yes. And also even maybe protecting yourself too. Kind of things that weren't a warning before, now they are a warning, or just doing things that are more in alignment with yourself, not taking something that you feel lukewarm about anymore, because well, that's going to throw me off the path. If it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. That mentality too.
And when you don't listen, there are consequences.
Oh yeah, there's repercussions, there's delays, there's now another hurdle I have to go over. This could have been a lot easier if I just listened to my intuition or what have you. Definitely. Okay, great. And then we kind of spoke about it, but really, what is the relevance of shamanism in today's world? You did talk about, how it affects the day to day, but how is it viewed today kind of by the collective, I guess?
I think that if I could introduce shamanism to everyone, it's like introducing them back to something that's innately within. Yeah, that connection that I keep speaking about. And let's just say it's intuition, okay? Because intuition can be expanded into how intuitive and how much you can see. But it's being able to be connected to something that's innately there so that they can maneuver through the day-to-day things, like, whatever is going on in the world. But I feel like sometimes people are very easily, or can be easily influenced by outside. What your friends are saying, what your teachers are saying, what your authorities are saying, what the news is saying. And they're all quite outside, outside external influences. And more than ever in the last year, 2 years, it's like really allowing myself to come back to listening to my inner authority. Inner authority of like, okay, they are saying something. How do I feel about that? Does that feel like truth to me? There's something not quite right, or maybe it does feel, in alignment. And as everything is, unfolding and day to day is obviously happening, it's really being able to listen inside and discerning. And when we have that connection, and I hope to share this with everyone, how to listen to that connection, then they would feel a sense of security of like, okay, well, I know what's true for me, and of course that truth can change, from day to day because our awareness is expanding. But I really think that it's important, this connection to self, because we need to come back to our inner authority, our sovereignty, and our free will to be able to choose for ourselves. This is right. This is a choice I make and I feel good about it, as opposed to someone else deciding for you. And I think right now there's just so much going on outside that people can be. You want to belong with what your friends are saying, belong with what, your city or whatever your country is doing. And those forces around us, there are really good things out there and really not so good things. And I think shamanism really delves into the shadows as well. And I know like shadow work can be a whole episode on its own, but like, let's just say things that are not so comfortable, okay? Those are all the shadows, things that are not so comfortable. And shamanism and the shamanic healings, for example, it's like, guys, we can't just be all love and light. Like, yes, I'm love and light, but we need to work on the things that are not yet being seen.
Yes.
So shamanism is about working on the shadows and being able to expose them for what they are in ourselves, okay? Let's just focus on ourselves. We can't control anyone else. The shadows within ourselves. And then secondly, to be able to come to that inner voice and that inner authority, because you are the center of the world. Like, we can only work on ourselves.
Mhm.
And I guess for me, it's been why I need to, talk more about it. I just feel like people may resonate with that, may resonate with wanting to really discern for themselves and knowing the truth. So it's inner authority, shadow work, and it is relevant because it's old wisdom that's relevant. It's so relevant. Everything is energy. How can it not be relevant?
Yeah, totally, totally. Yeah, because energy is not destroyed or created, right? I mean,
No.
so it's still there, even if it is old. It's still there, even if it's going to come through in a different light. And
Yeah.
another thing too, I like how you kind of express that it's about your sovereignty, right? So this is empowerment. When I am my own authority, then you kind of gain that sense of confidence of, well, I know I'm doing the right thing, or I at least, am on the right path because it's coming from me. The
Yep.
decisions are coming from me. They're not coming from a third party. So I made that decision purely based on what I felt. So it's kind of like it didn't have to go through all of these filters, but it was just pure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sovereignty. It's like, I think when I don't remember the first time I heard that word, but like when you understand what sovereignty means, and free will and all kinds of sovereignty, it's so powerful. And that's, again, the core of shamanism, the core of a healing is usually about power loss and soul loss. Like, we work at a soul level. And I think you're familiar with that because when you're working with the Akash, it's like the stuff that's all happened and to happen, timelines past and future. So at the soul level, it's like, what have you given away? And how do you reclaim that? And when you reclaim that, what is healing but the word whole, wholeness, when you make yourself whole? So I think it's like bringing all of that back, reclaiming power so that you can be more soulful, you can be more whole and more of yourself, really.
Yes, yes.
Simple down. It took 2 years to simplify it to that, but
Yeah, but no, it's explained so eloquently because yeah, if I'm only operating at 25% Melissa, I'm doing such a disservice not only to myself, but to everyone that I affect as well. So why would we only want to show up part way, right?
totally.
Okay, great. And then, you did express, the things that you're trained in, kind of what you offer, but let's say if somebody wanted to work with you, what would that look like?
Yeah. So I offer a couple of things. So let's just say a one-to-one with me. Right now, these days we're working a lot online. So I work over Zoom, for example. But whether you're in Zoom or in person or in a group format, so I offer some live workshops and also my course that I do online. But really, first and foremost, it's working with energy. Like, let's just be, like I'm
Mhm.
going to call it what it is. We're working with energy. So I like to create a sacred container. So we're opening space for us to work together and working with spirit. So it means that there's no specific formula for, all right, first step is this, second step, we're going to put our hands here and do this. And there's no protocol as in this is the exact thing I'm going to work on or say. When we work with the divine and we become a hollow bone, which just means we're a vessel for whatever is to come through, then you might come and tell me what intention you have to work on, so the objective or the goal. And then basically we look at, well, what's in the way of that, or what's going to come in to help us to get there. And so it sounds like, quite typical, but instead of, there's no counseling of like, months on end working on the same thing. It's very much less talk and more work on the energetic, spiritual, and emotional front. So that could look like us talking. That could look like me singing. So I use a lot of sound medicine, the sounds that come through. That could look like you doing some movements and embodying it as well. That could look like you sitting up or you lying down. Like everything is quite intuited, and I don't actually know until we begin a session. I use some tools. So sometimes I have crystals. Sometimes I use drums or musical instruments. Sometimes I have nothing at all. So basically, anytime I open a session, I will ask to say, okay, what wants to be here and what wants to be used? And I'll be guided to use those things for you. Sometimes it's really just soft and lovely things that are wanting to come in and messages, because that's what the person needs to hear. Sometimes it's, intense and clearing and this and that, and, a lot of transformation happening. Guides can come through, like a lot. It really varies from session to session, but I can say that anyone who's worked in a one-to-one or in a group, something is happening. At a deeply experiential and direct revelation, you will experience something. And I think that sometimes it takes the mind or the body some time to catch up to what's actually happened or
Mm.
to still make sense of it. But I just usually invite people to have an open mind. Have an open mind of, if something hasn't worked for you in the past, or you're really wanting to get to the bottom of something, be open to it. Like, why wouldn't you want to have divine, intervention and that insight coming in that's not from my mind, not from any place that I've learned? I'm not going to dissect anything you tell me. In fact, it doesn't matter what you tell me. Some sessions, some people just show up and say, okay, whatever spirit says. And so I just tune in to say, okay, well, what's coming through? So
Yeah.
it's quite natural and intuitive, and it really depends on what that person wants to work on. And it can even just sound like this, like it's very easy. I don't need to do, some hocus pocus to, connect. Like, it's always there.
Yeah, no, I love that it is customized and that what comes through is what was needed in that moment for that person. Because that's imperative. We're not a one size fits all. And when you,
No.
and especially, yeah, if you have all of these different tools at your disposal, why not use what's necessary? Why not do kind of an a la carte method, so that you're really honing in on what's needed and, not wasting time on something that we're good with.
Mm,
To focus on
mm.
that.
But
Okay.
I guess we needed to, practice certain, you learn modalities because it's a map.
Yes.
Like, I talk a lot about maps, in my teaching, because that's the map we learned. Like, I know you practice Reiki, put your hands here, you learn about the chakras. It's a map to help us understand, until we kind of not devise our own map, but aren't we always? Because you're Melissa and I'm Katara, like, as the information comes through, or our learnings, we are always our own map. And
Mhm.
so once the energy moves through us, it's like we are the channel, right? That's why we're called channels, because we are the channel. So I think it's important not to get stuck in any one way. They're all fabulous methods. They all, will work and have its amazing abilities to do things. But when it's fully channeled and you're a hollow bone, it's like, that whatever comes through, it hasn't happened before. And if you come see me today or tomorrow, actually things shift because the energy is always moving.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, what I love about doing energy work and shamanic healing. You don't really need to prepare. I don't really need to study you or anything. Whoever comes together in a group, that would be exactly the right group that needs to be there because they've got some joint issues, joint things that they need to work on, and we move and shift it together. So I just love it. Like it's always perfect, however it turns out.
Yeah, that's been my experience too in a lot of different workshops I've gone to, or yes, group healings where it's not just me, it's me, maybe 10 other people. There always was a common theme.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
always, we're all working on something that kind of fits under the same umbrella, and we were all put there together divinely without us even knowing that. So I always
Exactly.
find that comes through too. Okay, great. And then was there anything that you wanted to share with the listeners that we didn't get to?
I just think people should listen to that inner calling, however it shows up for them. And I want to share that, that feeling, it doesn't have to literally be a voice. It can just be that feeling of something's not quite right, this wanting moreness, this, uneasiness even. And that's not always a gut feeling, but whatever it is, I really urge people to listen to that and to follow, be guided to whichever healer, whichever workshop, like to do something about it. I think it's about taking action. I really want to encourage people, to take action about something so that they can resolve it.
Yes, yes. I think being proactive and really going through that discovery of self, I think that's so vital because even myself, I have people, they come to me, I feel like something's missing, everything, maybe it looks good on paper, but isn't there something more? And you just want to be like, well, yes, but it's, they have to discover it, and you can definitely guide people, but to your point, they have to take that action and do the work too, because it is for them.
Yeah.
Great. And then I'll definitely link everything in the show notes, but where can people find you if they want to work with you, connect with you?
Absolutely. And thanks for sharing my links. I will share a freebie so everyone can have my kind of intro freebie to accessing intuition. And again, it's like basic innate stuff, but sometimes we just need to remember. So I've got a free training that's for everyone. And I'd love for you to find me on Instagram, on social media. I am Katara Sky. I am Katara Sky. And if you DM me, I want the truth. I want you to DM me, I want the truth, so that I know that you've listened to this podcast. And I'd love to offer all your listeners a 20% discount on my course that's coming up, which is really about taking the journey. So that's only going to be in January, but will be a repeat. And I really want to take people there. It feels, as you said, more than ever before. It's like really just helping people to be on the path and listening to themselves. So DM me, find me on Instagram. I am Katara Sky. There are freebies in the links there. I've got free meditation every week, just bringing this kind of energy and talking about things. And yeah, I'll give you a beautiful discount on this soul journey because I think everyone should have it approachable, be guided in, beautiful setting. So find me there.
Awesome. Awesome. Much appreciated. Excited about that for the listeners. And yeah, Katara, again, I want to thank you so much for your time today. It's really, a topic that I really have been wanting to dive into for some time now. So I'm so glad that we were able to connect and do this episode. But yeah, again, I want to thank you. And I feel like it was informative and enlightening at the same time.
Yes, don't be scared, guys. It's just languaging, okay? Shamanism is
Oh,
innately in you.
yes, it's so simple. We just overcomplicate things as, humans. Okay, great. All right. So, everyone, this was another great example on how spirituality and the use of different methods and teachings can really make great changes in your daily life. As always, if you are looking for a way to relieve stress and anxious thoughts or looking to gain some clarity, you can always book a Reiki energy healing or Akashic Records reading session with me at thenewAgeGoddess.com. Much love and namaste.